Alright, I just want to do a walk around and review of the DRZ400 before Ned wrecks it again. So let me get Ned to put up what it looked like whenever he bought it. It was alright. Cost $2,800. It's an 05. No, make that an 04. Had about 5,000 miles on it. So, decent deal. It was pretty much all stock. So, want to know what it looks like now? There you go. So I'll go over what all I did to it real quick. Let's just go front to back on this one. So, first of all, the fender. I think DRZ400 fenders are ugly. So I got one off of, I don't know, it was an RM and RMZ. We'll put links to everything in case you want to get one for yourself. Did the KTM style blades for the fork guards, and it turned out pretty well. I'm still testing it, but I like it. The radiator hose thingies ain't too bad. They kind of date it, but in a cool way. But I just wanted something different. The tank, it came with a 3.9 Clark, and I swapped it out for a 3.2 gallon IMS. And I just don't need that much more fuel, and also this holds the gasoline a little bit lower, so it helps the center of gravity a little bit. So I like that tank a little bit better. Also, the other one was gasoline stained color, and that just drives me crazy. So that one's black. I got new decals from Factory FX. I think decals make a big difference on a bike. I mean, when you just have plastics with no decals, something just doesn't look right. So, and I want this bike to look A, like it came from the factory, and B, like it came from the factory and it was a more modern design. Got new plastics. I think the only plastics I kept were the radiator shroud plastics, and everything else I replaced. So I was trying to make it like a little bit busier in the front and a little bit more understated in the back. Kind of like a reverse mullet. I noticed Suzuki's kind of doing that now with some of their bikes out of the factory, and I think it turned out pretty cool and looking a little bit more modern. I like it. What else did I do? I did a bomb-proof dual sport build on that tire, and there's another video for that y'all can go check out. And oh yeah, got the edge taillight assembly, so we don't have that big heavy thing hanging off. In fact, that's super clean and super light now. Got that from Wheel and Cycle Supply, one of my favorite companies to order things from on the internet. A Tusk gas cap, and the carburetor. The carburetor was all screwed up when we first rode this thing. Like, it was the idle was hanging and didn't feel right, so I took the carburetor out, found out it was missing some parts. Jetted it with a JD kit. It had a dyno jet kit in there, and I just don't like the dyno jet kits nearly as much. So swapped it out for the JD, and put it in there, and it just ran awesome. So it's amazing what the right jetting and putting all the parts that belong in the carburetor can do. After that, really, it was like ergonomics. Like the stock handlebars were on this thing, and man, it was terrible. They were way far back and really low. And it's kind of a tall bike, so I don't know what Suzuki's thinking, unless they're trying to make bikes for midgets who wear platform shoes or something. Speaking of platform shoes, I got giant pegs on there too. It was like $50, and they feel so much better than those stock pegs. So ergonomically, the bike feels way better now. I kind of like the DRZ stock mirrors, but they're a little bit heavy. Actually, they're a lot heavy. They don't fold in. Those fold in. And Ned broke them anyways, crashing the bike a couple times. So I just put those on there. I like those mirrors a lot, and they're only $10. Which means if I do ever break them, I won't, because they'll fold in when I fall over. But if I do ever break them, it's $10, right? So I think that's it for the walk around. That's everything I did. Like I said, Ned will get some links in there, so y'all don't have to guess how to do any of this stuff yourself if you want. And let's go ride it. This thing just starts up every time. like this machine. There's everything about it just feels great. I changed the gearing on this to, what is it now? It's 1448, I believe, or 1447. That's what it is. I think it's a stock gearing for a DRZ400E. Now let's talk a little bit more about a few things I did. Should have mentioned these things in the walk around. But the headlight cover, it was white. It was like 90 bucks to buy one in black. Said screw that, so I got a can of Krylon Fusion and painted it. It turned out pretty good. It's already got a couple scratches and chips on it from crashing, but that's what happens when you crash, and still barely noticeable. So if you're ever thinking about painting your plastics with Krylon Fusion, I'd say that's okay. You know, if you can get like a whole set of plastics for 100 bucks, I would do that instead, but those usually don't come with headlight covers. And the biggest problem I've had with it is when you go to wash it, you can't use the same stuff. Like, I have to wash the plastics with the things I use to wash plastics, and then I have to wash this with the same stuff I use to wash my car. And if I use the plastic cleaning stuff on this, then it marks it up. Ruins the finish. The other thing I did was these handlebars, which I mentioned in the walk around that they were there, but I didn't talk about what they were exactly. They're Evos, and they're the CR high bend. And then I put Pro Taper risers on there, and that rose the handlebars up considerably. I mean, it's very comfortable for me to just stand up and ride this thing. Actually more comfortable than the 250R even, which doesn't have risers and has a little bit lower bend on the bars. One thing I didn't anticipate was that my ignition no longer mounted to my handlebars when I did that, because the bolts on these are kind of sunk in on the riser, so I had to relocate that. I'm not crazy about where it is. So I put the D-Flex handguards on there. They're okay. I think I'm going to tell Ned it's probably worth spending some money to get the, what are they, Sycras, Centipedes, whatever they are, that other brand. Mainly because it seems like when you replace the actual plastic pieces, it's cheaper on those. So in the long run, if you're like me and picky and you want to keep your plastics clean and replace them frequently, it's actually cheaper sometimes to get the more expensive brands that have the cheaper covers. See, I also put the MT21 tire on the front. It had a trail wing up there. I actually had a new trail wing. Who in the world buys a new trail wing tire and puts it on a dual sport? And it had a new D606 in the back. Now that's a good tire. So I really don't understand how somebody buys a D606 for the back and trail wing for the front. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I put an MT21 up front. Everything's good now. The airbox, it didn't quite have the 3x3 mod. It had the 2x2.5 mod. So I fixed that. Now it's got like a 3.5x3.5 mod. Another thing I should have mentioned on the walk around is the rear fender. So I looked at getting a black rear fender factory, and they were like 80 or 90 bucks, which is ridiculous. And then Acerbis has theirs for like 20 bucks. So I got that, but theirs only is made for the DRZ400E. And that area back there is actually where the E and the S are pretty different. So I had to hack that fender up a whole bunch to get it to work. And when I was all done with that, I was thinking, man, it might have been worth the extra 70 bucks or whatever it was to get the factory fender. So next time, I don't know, I'll probably go ahead and get that fender. If it's Ned's money, then I'll just go ahead and get the factory fender. But if it's my money, meaning I wrecked it and I need to replace the plastic, then I'll probably go ahead and get the Acer Bis fender and dremel it up.